I work at a pharmacy in Lisbon, and an American man stared at the painkillers I handed him like they were decorative boxes. He turned them over slowly, squinting at the clean design. This doesn't look medical. Where are the warnings? I pointed to the folded leaflet inside. He opened it, saw 3 calm paragraphs instead of apocalyptic disclaimers, and whispered, "This feels unsafe." He bought it anyway, walking out like he just committed a crime against American branding. At a clinic in Amsterdam, an American woman approached the reception desk, gripping her insurance card like a secret passcode. "Where do I submit the forms?" she asked confidently. I told her we didn't need them. Name and ID was enough. She blinked, completely still, as if her entire training from medical bureaucracy had been wasted. No forms? No codes? No deductible talks? When I said no, she slowly lowered the card, genuinely unsure what to do with her free hand. She sat down very quietly, staring at the card like I had betrayed her purpose in life. A tourist in Brussels held up a box of tablets like he was deciphering ancient symbols. "Why are the instructions in 3 languages?" he asked. I said, "Because Belgium has 3 official ones." He stared at the French side, then the Dutch side, then the German side, looking slightly threatened by multilingual packaging. "This feels unstable," he whispered. I reassured him the medicine worked exactly the same in every language. He tapped the box like it might shift languages again. He finally bought it, but held it at arm's length all the way out the door. I'm not sure he ever took it. Fear of languages might have been stronger than the headache. A mother in Zagreb brought her child in after a small fall. The pediatrician crouched and spoke directly to the kid. "You're okay. You're brave." The kid nodded confidently. The mother blinked, waiting for the doctor to give her the reassurance speech. "Are you sure? He needs comfort." The doctor smiled. "I just gave it to him." She frowned, not because her child wasn't fine, but because she wasn't used to a clinic where children take part in their own healthcare. She left, holding her son's hand, still not sure who learned more. At a dentist in Reykjavik, an American tourist nearly panicked when the dentist repaired his tiny cavity in under 10 minutes. "No numbing? No lecture about flossing? No treatment plan?" he asked. The dentist shrugged. It was small. The man sat up slowly, confused that something so simple wasn't treated like a life event. He asked twice if the dentist was sure he was done. The dentist nodded, already cleaning his tools. He paid quietly, as if unsure he'd actually received real dentistry. On his way out, he bit down twice to confirm the tooth was real. His tooth felt fine, which seemed to confuse him even more. My cousin works in urgent care in Paris, where an American man walked in clutching his chest dramatically. The doctor checked him calmly and said, "It's nothing serious. Rest today." The man kept waiting for something. A test, a scan, a dramatic explanation. "Are you sure? That's it?" he asked, confused that a diagnosis didn't come with a theatrical speech. The doctor repeated, "You're fine." He sat there a moment longer, glancing around the room as if expecting someone to jump out with a second opinion. But no theatrical backup arrived, and that seemed to unsettle him more than the chest tightness. I work at a clinic in Athens, and an American woman panicked when the receptionist told her the consultation cost 18 euros. She stared at the price like it was a setup for a punchline. "That's too cheap. Something's wrong." She kept asking if we were running a promotion or she accidentally qualified for a senior discount. When we said no, she stepped aside and Googled average European healthcare prices, as if expecting proof we'd trapped her in a scam. She paid slowly, handing over the money like it might disappear in smoke. On her way out, she whispered, "Healthcare isn't supposed to feel affordable." My cousin in Copenhagen told me about an American who called an ambulance after tripping on a curb. The ambulance arrived quietly, no lights, no sirens, just calm professionalism. He immediately panicked. "Why aren't the lights on? Is the system broken?" The paramedic said, You don't need sirens for a scraped knee. He looked offended, almost embarrassed, like his injury didn't meet the emotional requirements he'd prepared. He tried insisting it could be worse, but even his voice didn't sound convinced. He rode quietly to the clinic, confused why the world wasn't reacting at full volume. A tourist from the US walked into the Helsinki ER expecting chaos. Instead, he saw calm nurses, quiet hallways, and absolutely no one sprinting. He whispered, Is something wrong? Why isn't anyone running?" A nurse smiled and said, "Because no one is dying." He looked around again, waiting for a dramatic burst of action. He even asked if the ER was on break. The nurse shook her head gently, but the silence unnerved him more than any medical alarm ever could. He sat down stiffly, as if sitting too loudly might disrupt the Scandinavian calm. My cousin is a junior doctor in Florence, and an American couple panicked when she entered the room without a white coat. "Are you the assistant? We need the actual doctor," they insisted. She smiled. "I am the doctor." They exchanged looks like they were victims of a magic trick. "Where's your coat, your badge, your prestige?" She pointed to her scrubs. "These are my clothes." They spent the rest of the appointment asking about her experience instead of their symptoms. They left still unsure whether youth and competence were allowed to coexist in medicine. At a hospital in Vienna, an American couple insisted on seeing the senior doctor because the one who walked in looked too young to satisfy their expectations. He introduced himself with quiet confidence. They stared at him like he'd forgotten the ceremonial robe and lighting cues. "Are you fully qualified?" they whispered. He nodded, unfazed, and asked what their concern was. Their certainty deflated instantly, like they no longer knew how to explain their symptoms without a dramatic backdrop. By the time they left, they walked out in silence, still processing that competence doesn't always come with theatrics. In Tallinn, an American woman panicked when the pharmacist explained her medication in 3 simple sentences. No list of horrific side effects, no emotional warnings. The pharmacist said, "It's mild medicine." She held the box at arm's length like it might detonate. She even asked if there was a stronger, more official version, meaning one with scarier packaging. When told no, she sighed dramatically, as if safety was suspicious. She left with the expression of someone carrying mystery powder instead of tablets. My friend is an emergency nurse in Zurich, and an American hiker limped in with a tiny ankle sprain. She wrapped it gently and said, "It'll heal. Ice tonight." He stared at her like she just dismissed his entire medical identity. "That's it? No imaging? No walking boot? No warnings?" She shrugged. "Not for this." He tested his foot, almost disappointed it moved normally. He left slowly, limping just a bit extra, as if trying to justify the emotional weight of his visit. At a pharmacy in Berlin, an American man held a generic cold medicine like it was a knockoff designer bag. "This isn't real. Where's the American brand?" he asked. I explained it had the same active ingredient. He tapped the plain box twice, disappointed by its lack of dramatic American marketing. "It just doesn't feel powerful," he muttered. He bought it anyway, but carried it out like it was a fragile experiment rather than medicine. I watched them go, already preparing Google to confirm it wasn't European witchcraft. In a clinic waiting room in Rome, an American tourist rushed in holding a tiny rash on his arm like it was evidence from a disaster movie. The receptionist took one look and smiled gently. "Please wait. Others are ahead." He looked around the calm room, nobody panicking, nobody gasping, nobody treating his rash like an emergency. He lowered his arm slowly, suddenly unsure how serious he wanted this to be. "Should I go to the ER?" he whispered. The receptionist shook her head. "Not for that." He sat down, staring at his rash like it had betrayed his expectations by not being dramatic enough. In a Dublin dental office, an American woman refused to believe her problem was minor. The dentist calmly said, "No emergency, you'll be fine." She blinked rapidly, baffled by the lack of upselling, drama, or urgent warnings. No deep cleaning, no special rinse, no follow-up plan. He shook his head. Not needed. She nodded slowly, as if absorbing the idea that nothing was wrong was somehow emotionally complicated. She left quietly, suspicious of a world where "you're fine" is just true. A tourist in Stockholm nearly spiraled when the doctor gave her a direct diagnosis without emotional cushioning. "You're okay. It's a small issue. Rest a bit." She kept waiting for the comforting tone she was used to at home, the verbal hug, the soft voice, the reassurance script. But none of it came. Just clean, simple truth. She stood there a moment longer, processing the possibility that the calmness was real, not neglect. She walked out slowly, almost dazed by how little drama her body apparently required. An American mother rushed her child into a clinic in Zagreb after a tiny fall. The doctor examined the child and said calmly, "You're okay." The kid nodded, already reaching for a sticker. The mother blinked, waiting for the emotional sympathy speech she expected. "Are you sure? He needs reassurance." The doctor smiled. "I just gave it to him." She paused, not because the child wasn't fine, but because the lack of dramatic comfort confused her more than the accident. I work at a pharmacy in Athens, and an American woman nearly froze when I handed her antibiotics after asking just 2 quick questions. She held the box like it was contraband. "That's it? Don't you need my entire medical history?" I told her no, it was a simple infection. She kept staring at the medicine, waiting for someone to stop her, as if compliance required a ceremony. She even asked, "Shouldn't there be a warning about potential disasters?" I pointed to the tiny leaflet inside, but she looked at it like it was suspiciously short. She walked out slowly, whispering, "This is too easy. That's suspicious." She kept glancing back at the pharmacy, like someone might chase her for undersharing personal details. At urgent care in Edinburgh, an American woman grabbed her wallet nervously when I told her the consultation fee. She looked down at the number again. "That can't be right. It's too low," she said. I nodded. "That's the price." She stared at the receipt like it was a trap door. Healthcare is never this cheap. Something's off. She even whispered, "Are you sure you're not forgetting something?" I told her no. That was the entire process. She walked to the waiting room slowly, holding the receipt like it might accuse her of fraud. A tourist in Warsaw nearly spiraled when the doctor gave him a diagnosis in one clean sentence. "You're dehydrated. Drink more water." He blinked twice. "That's it?" "Yes," the doctor said, already moving to the next patient. The American stood there in silence, waiting for additional warnings, emotional coaching, or a dramatic monologue. Nothing came. He even stepped back into the doorway and asked, "Are you sure I don't need tests?" The doctor waved politely without turning. He eventually wandered out, still thirsty, but mostly confused that clarity counted as medical care. Foreign clinics don't rely on panic, branding, sirens, or emotional choreography. They rely on clarity, the kind that feels like chaos when you're used to medical theater. If you've ever seen someone panic because foreign healthcare was too normal, drop your story below. We read everything. And if you're American, don't worry. We know it's strange when medicine works quietly instead of theatrically.